Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Live with Next Great Step. Really excited to be with all of you today. I am Beth Hendler-Grunt, and I am the CEO and founder of Next Great Step. My sole focus is to help college students and recent grads land the job that they deserve, especially in a very competitive marketplace. I am really excited today to have a guest with me, Joe Battista, who is going to help address some of the major issues that we're both seeing in this market about young people who are struggling with how to move forward, how to be resilient, how to motivate, because a lot is very uncertain with graduations being canceled and summer plans not sure. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. And there's 4 million grads who just are graduating this month alone. So we want to talk about, how do you plan for the future? How as parents can we help them move forward, understand what their passion is? And Joe's going to talk about that. And then also that need for mentorship. So let me just introduce Joe. Joe is a professional speaker, coach, and author of Pragmatic Passion. He works with high school, college students, and corporations to help them build, grow, and transform. He has been a coach and mentor for students and athletes in both professional, collegiate, and youth sports. Joe is a Penn State hockey legend and Hall of Fame coach. In 19 seasons as the head coach of Penn State Ice Hockey, his teams won 512 games and 6 national championships. I am honored to call him a friend. We both also have kids currently attending Penn State. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks so much for having me, Beth. Looking forward to helping your audience and hopefully helping some parents and their students to develop good options and make more informed choices, especially given the times that we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So first of all, I'm so glad you're here. I hope you and your family are safe. So many young people are not sure about the path forward. As I said earlier, you have these grads coming out of school, entering this uncertain market. You have, millions of kids who are in high school and college that are so unsure of what the future looks for them. And candidly, a lot of them are feeling depressed. They're not motivated. What advice would you give to them or to their parents to help them stay positive? Almost if you were to coach your team, what would you, what are the first things you would say to them to help them feel a little better?
Control what you can control. Don't pretend that this isn't happening. You've got to be authentic. I mean, we are in a challenging time, but you know what? We've been through challenging times before. All of us can, it either happened at the beginning of our careers, midpoint, toward the end, whatever. Theirs is just happening to be right up front. And it's okay. They have to have some coping skills. I'm a big believer as a former coach that you have to do relaxation, deep breathing exercises, stay calm, relaxed, but energized. And you have to use visualization. You have to think about, what do I want that future to look like? Now, the big thing is right now, you might have to adjust your sights, right? Maybe that perfect job you were hoping for isn't there anymore. And I think you have to decide, so what are the deal breakers? And you have to maybe relax some things, where you're going to be able to go, what field you're going to get into. Right now, it's more important that you think about, what priorities do I have, and stay poised, stay positive, learn those coping skills, and it'll help you to make better decisions so you're not doing it emotionally.
Yeah, great point. I think your point about managing expectations is such a key thing, because there were so many hopes for so many things that are not happening, and that ability to shift and really to change your mindset. So just maybe talk about that for a minute, because I know mindset is so important in performing in any aspect of our life. How do you help someone or, give guidance to say, well, you got to look at it differently, or things that you thought that were going to happen are not happening now?
Right. Well, my tagline for my book is dream big, keep it real, and get it done. And this is the keep it real part. Like, we can't pretend that this isn't happening, but we can take a positive mindset into it, right? As you said, it's about managing expectations. You may not get that great job right off the bat. What I say to a lot of people, not every day gets to be Super Bowl Sunday. Not every day gets to be your big performance at Carnegie Hall.
Right.
Most days we're grinding it out. It's where in sports, it's what happens in practice. If you're in an orchestra, if you're a singer, it's that stuff behind the scenes that people don't see. So you have to have kind of a grinder's mentality right now and just keep going forward. And every day you're going to learn new things about yourself and about what opportunities are out there. You may have to work harder.
Yeah.
Right? So stay positive. Don't get upset if things don't go the right way right off the bat. You just have to adjust your sails a little bit right now, but get into a routine. Wake up, get dressed, exercise. Make sure you're eating healthy for two reasons. It'll keep you energized and it'll ward off the virus, hopefully. And I think that what you put into your mind right now is so important. I'm a big believer that you have to listen to the kind of music and podcasts and things that are going to keep you growing. Turn off the news. Mm-hmm. I got rid of my news app on my iPhone, so I wasn't even tempted because it's all negative. And really, at the end of the day, what does knowing how many new coronavirus cases there are in some other state or some other country have to do with impacting you and your job search, or you're trying to get an internship, or figure out what to do now that an internship or a job have been rescinded? Nothing. So don't worry about that. Yeah, you keep an eye on it because you're interested, but ultimately control what you can control. Only feed your mind the things that are going to help you. I am a big believer in not using your iPhone, your device, as your alarm. Use an old-fashioned alarm. Put your phone someplace else, because the temptation is always to look at it and immediately start reading things that take control of your life instead of you controlling how your day starts. And
oh my gosh, that middle of the night where you just grab the phone just to get like a check or what's happening, it's terrible. It's a terrible addiction for all of us.
It really does.
And then you see all these negative things, and then you can't sleep. It's like a very bad cycle to do that. So you hit on a couple of things. I love the part about controlling what you can control, because we feel very little is in our control right now. Very little is feeling like we can make changes. We're just kind of waiting for hopefully the people that know what's going on to do certain things. What do you think is the best way? How should people, I'll say high schoolers, college students, how should they use their time? Because a lot of plans got canceled. A lot of camps are about to be, have been in the process of being canceled, or summer plans, internships. What do you think is a good way for them to use their time wisely?
You got to be creative. You got to pivot. Okay. I can tell you in my, I'm a professional speaker, and most of the time I'm used to being on stage and in front of a live audience. Learning the whole new virtual way to present, that's on me, right? So same thing with them. They're going to have to say, okay, well, there are certain skills I want to learn that are going to help differentiate me from other people. And Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, most people know him from Shark Tank, billionaire. I listened to a podcast that he did, and he said, the number one question that most students are going to be asked when they're trying to get internships or summer jobs or their first job, whatever it might be, is how did you use your time during the quarantine? What'd you do to grow? What'd you do to learn? So find a book, find podcasts, watch YouTube videos, but don't just waste your time binge watching, TV shows on Netflix and, that sort of thing, and wasting your time on social media. You have to be intentional and deliberate in what you're going to do. So you have to set out a schedule for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch this YouTube video. I'm going to listen to this podcast. And build your network. This is a great time. Use LinkedIn, as much as you can. Use the other services that are out there. And as you mentioned earlier in the show, this is also the best time to find a mentor. Okay? Get a mentor in your life, but also you may need a coach. Okay. Difference in my mind is mentor somebody, usually a friend, a family member, a colleague, a peer, whereas a coach is somebody you're paying to help you to improve a certain skill.
Right.
And a pet peeve of mine, especially spending most of my career in sports, is we sometimes don't even bat an eye at dropping $1,000 to send our kid off to band camp, art camp, some sports camp, but we won't take the time to help them get with a professional counselor that's going to help guide them through the kinds of steps that they need to take right now.
Yeah.
And that can be a big differentiator in your particular, to me, it's all about fit, and it's all about your return on your investment and having a perseverance mindset that can help you get through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you made a couple of really good points. I want to come back to 1 or 2 of those. One of the things you talked about was how you differentiate yourself. And that's something that we in our practice talk about so much. One of the things we see with young kids or young adults who say, I don't know what skills I have, or I want this kind of job, but I'm not good enough, or I didn't do enough, or I only was a lifeguard, or I worked as a camp counselor. And what we want to tell you, and the message that I also want to relay, is that you are good enough and you have the skills. I think so many young people have exactly what they need, but they're having difficulty of how to articulate it and how to connect it in terms of what a business is looking for or what an employer is looking for. So if you want to get that internship or first job, working at a restaurant and serving multiple people at the same time and trying to increase the bill to add, drinks or dessert, you're in sales. Right. You're able to hustle. Being a lifeguard, that's like showing leadership. You're able to be very responsible. So it's just figuring out how to translate it. That's something that we also really zero in on, that, even if we tell parents that your young adults have so much talent, it's helping them to craft their story to help someone else understand the talent that they have as well. And just as a side note, we're actually about to launch the Skills Accelerator Method program that I'm really excited about, coming out next week, because this is one of the hot issues that most young people don't understand. What skills, 1, do I have? And then 2, how do I tell a story about it? So look for that in the coming days. The other thing that you said, which I really liked, is this idea about, mentor versus coach. And I think, figuring that out of when do I need a mentor, when do I need a coach, I think are, definitely important. But how would you suggest, if someone said, what, I'm thinking about a certain field, or I think I need guidance, how do you find a mentor? What would you suggest is the best way to go about doing that?
It starts, to me, with sitting down and writing out a list of the questions that you're looking to have answered. Okay. It's not as easy as just saying, well, somebody's a broadcaster and I'm thinking about going to broadcast. I want to have them as my mentor. You want to be as specific as you can. So you want to list, what are the questions that I want to answer? Because most people are giving, and especially in this time, they'll help, but they want to know that there's a plan. They want to know that you're aiming towards something. And so the more detailed you can be about what it is you're trying to get out of the relationship, I think you're going to find a better fit. And, it's not as simple as, well, I'm just going to, I'm going to ask Mark Cuban to be my mentor. Well, keep it real. You may have to, change your expectations there as well. But I think finding a good mentor, somebody, by the way, who's not going to be afraid to tell you what you might not like to hear. Feedback is a blessing. We don't grow if we don't get feedback and get trained. Again, athletes, musicians, artists, they're used to getting that very candid feedback, which is why we're, so much of an advocate for extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
And you can't be afraid to hear that, well, you got to look at some things a little differently than what you're currently doing. It'll help you grow. I call it carefrontation. I learned that at a conference that I attended from Vistage. It's carefrontation versus confrontation. I'm not trying to do this. I'm actually telling you what you need to do because I care about you, because I think about you and your potential, and I see you in places that maybe you don't even see yourself. And getting back, I want to make sure I don't miss this. You have to believe in yourself, right? We all suffer from the imposter syndrome to a certain
Yeah.
extent.
Yeah.
I'm just not good enough. No, who am I, et cetera. Look, we all started somewhere, and you're going to make mistakes. It's okay. Nobody expects you to be perfect right off the bat. And especially given what we're going through right now, you may have a degree or, skills in a certain area, and you may have to shift into a completely different industry than you ever even imagined. Well, guess what? That's life. This
Yeah.
is a marathon and not a sprint.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
My own
Absolutely.
career has taken so many twists and turns, and I never in a million years would have thought that I was going to be exactly where I ended up. However, I started off with a plan in college that helped guide me. It's about developing skills and competencies, especially given the environment that we're in now with work, where it's going to change. You're not likely to keep the same jobs. You're going to change companies, et cetera, move around in companies more than what we did traditionally in the past. So it's all about taking those skills, developing competencies, and being able to, just make sure that they're transferable into opportunities that you may not have even considered.
Yeah.
Maybe the best thing that ever happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I want to touch on something that you mentioned early on. You talked about being accessible to, having mentors be accessible. And one of the things that I have found right now, even for myself, and I know for all my client and my students and grads who we're working with, is that people are more accessible now in a very interesting way because everyone's at home. So not to say that people aren't busy or they don't have work to do, but I think people are more open to connecting with people. I think they're more open to connecting with recent grads. People have a lot of empathy, say, hey, I was in the same place. And you know what, I'm going to help you. I've talked to a lot of young people who I offer that always on LinkedIn to reach out if I can give advice or give a resource. And I think, actually more people, even though maybe you're not going to jump right into and contact Mark Cuban, maybe you are, or maybe you're going to find a way, but even just starting out with leveraging your fellow alumni. I mean, you have this network, whether it's in your high school or whether it's in your college or university, of people who went to the same school as you and are very willing to have a conversation so you can learn about, well, tell me what you do and tell me how'd you get there and what advice would you give to someone who's trying to pursue that. And that's part of the process too, about just taking some chances. Sometimes, although this generation is so technology focused, that fear of getting on the phone and picking up the phone or having a more is really interesting. But so much can happen in those quick phone calls of like, wow, they just gave me great advice and I'm going to think about this. And it only took 15 minutes of your day. And now you're on a path that you didn't think was possible. So, that's the other thing that I always encourage is to always reach out, and people actually do want to help and do want to give you guidance where you need it.
Well, and quite frankly, they're honored when they get asked a lot of times. Now, it just, I think you have to be deliberate and strategic about who you might want to ask. And, there's nothing wrong. I don't mean, because I know in my own case, some of my mentors turned out to be people that I never in a million years would have expected to be able to develop a relationship. And it was because I had the courage to reach out. And, I think that if you put yourself out there and you're not afraid to make a mistake, have courage. Believe in yourself. The worst thing they can do is say no.
Right.
But as I said, as long as you're prepared, because they're going to want, all right, if I'm going to give you my time,
that's a great point.
Let's use it wisely. And, because one of the first things I would say to someone is, what is it that you expect to get out of our time together? I've got 15 minutes for you, half hour for you. What are you trying to get? So you have to ask yourself, why am I calling? What do I want? How can they help me? I am a big believer that most people, and we talk a lot about, you got to know what your why is. What is your purpose? That's the first principle in my book. The first chapter is all about finding your purpose, not necessarily your passion. Okay, and they're
we'll get to that.
But I do think that we need to know what those things are, and you have to have a way of doing it, a plan, in order to figure out the kinds of information to help you develop better options so that you can make more informed choices. And these mentors are going to be able to help you do that. I'm big into the how. Most people, they figure out a why at some point. They know what they want to do. They struggle with the how do I do it? And that's dream big, keep it real. It's the get it done part.
Yeah.
Act on it.
Well, that's why you and I are so in sync, because we're all about the how also. So many young people say, well, I tried, or I applied to 100 jobs, or I tried to reach out. And I'm like, well, what did you say in your letter when you reached out? Or what did you say when you got on the phone? They're like, well, I just said, can you help me get a job? I'm like, they don't even know you. How can you ask for a job? You haven't even said your name yet. So yeah, I'm all about the how to. Something that we teach that I think is really valuable. I totally agree. I think you need to reach out and you need to have the plan. So we have this tool, this meeting plan tool, and we have this technique. We call it the 3 A's. And the 3 A's that everyone should have before they have any meeting is, the first A is you want to plan in reverse. If everything goes amazingly well, what action do I want that person to take? Right. What would they do to push me forward into talking to someone else? Could be, introduce me to a colleague. It could be maybe get me in front of someone that I didn't have access to before. The second A is, what are the attitudes? In order for that person to do something, they have to believe something about me that they didn't know before. They have to maybe understand my skills and where I've demonstrated them and how I'm competent in certain areas. And then the last piece is of the A, are the answers. What answers do I need to better assess this person, this business, this job, the situation to do that? So that's a tool that we like to employ and really help people plan it out. So they have a plan and they have a goal, and most people on the other end of it love it because you're organized, you're ready to go, and it helps you get what you want.
Well, I love the reverse engineering because, again, as a 21-year-old, I sat down one day with, didn't have a computer screen. I just had my yellow pad of paper and a pencil. And I said, all right, my ultimate dream would be to be a head coach or a president of an organization or a general manager. And, I had a college version of it, and as an athletic director, and a pro one as a head coach or general manager, that sort of thing. And I want to say, okay, so what do people in those positions, what is their skill set? Do I have to get an advanced degree? What's going to help me to maybe get to where those people are? Now that changes, and that's up to you. You've got to do your research, but it helped me. And then I was able to kind of go back from there in order to say, okay, well then right out of the bat, I'm not going to be the general manager of a professional hockey team. And I have to understand that it's going to take years of developing the competencies and the contacts, the network that are going to help you get there. Marathon, not a sprint. Yeah. But you're going to come across people along the way that are going to help you. And there is a thing out there called the law of serendipity. It's to me, it means luck favors the prepared. Okay. So that when you're least expecting it, you're going to come across an opportunity that you may not, but because you've planned, because you've done your homework, because you've networked well, when that opportunity actually presents itself, you're ready to jump on it and take it. Yeah. And so again, the harder you work, the smarter you work, the more you can define what those things are that you want, it helps you. In my book, I have 7 principles, and I try to walk you through what are your interests, what do you love to do, what skills do you have, what do people think that you're good at, what do you think you're good at, and you have to have that kind of come to Jesus talk where you sit down and say, all right, well, I think I'm a really good guitarist. Right. And other people say, yeah, well, you're okay. Mm-hmm. It's like, you got to keep it real. But again, and then you get to the 5th principle, which in my book is inspiration. That's where all of us need mentors. And at times we need coaches. You have to have those people in your life that are going to help inspire you and then help you stay motivated. Right? Self-motivation is great. And a lot of people have that. They don't need the rah-rah people. Most of us need an accountability partner. Yes. Most of us need that person that we can lay out our plans, lay out our goals, and then we have to pass it by them. And I call it a U review. You have to do a U review every 3 to 6 months. And I don't care if you're a student, an adult, a retiree looking for an encore career. Every one of us should be doing that. And you look and say, am I aligned with my purpose and the goals I've set for myself? But you have to do this. It's a process. You have to have a system, right? There's different systems out there. You have to have one.
Yeah. Well, you know what's so hard is that we're in a world where everything feels instantaneous. You know, the expectation for so many young adults as well. If I click it, if I, whatever, get it, I can get things instant access, or that, 1-day shipping, whatever it is, I can get things immediately. And when it comes to figuring out your path and where you want to go, it's, as you said, it takes work, it takes some effort, and it takes some, really, really digging in. One of the things that you said that I wanted to comment on is, just whole process of, you got to plan for the end game, at some point. And so I have a lot of young people who say, well, I'm concerned, the job market doesn't look so positive right now. What am I going to do? And my focus is always, you want to plan for the end game. First of all, first and foremost, there are companies, they are hiring. It might be more competitive. It might be more challenging, but you cannot just, retract into under the covers and say, I'm not going to do anything. But the other thing is that when things start to come back even more, that you want to be positioned. So that goes back to your whole planning piece of being positioned to then be more competitive and really ready, as opposed to just starting the process then. And that could be, you've worked on acquiring new skills. You've now maybe networked with 10 new people that you now know that you could go reference in your resource. Maybe you read something, you took a course. So it's, how do you get yourself ready along the way? And it's not always a quick fix as much as all of us would like. But there's something that you mentioned too about passion. So I understand that you don't like the phrase finding your passion. So what's your take on this and directing young adults towards a path?
I think it's got more to do with finding your interests. Okay. I believe we have passion. Every one of us has passion in us, and we should bring it with us to whatever we're doing. So, we in coaching, we had a saying, when you cross the line, nothing else matters. Once you step on the ice, because I was a hockey coach, you stepped on the ice, you're focused on practice. You're focused on hockey. You're not thinking about your girlfriend or the dog or, some vacation that's coming up, spring break, whatever. You're staying focused. Likewise, you walk into a classroom, you're not thinking about hanging out with your friends and, your sports team or your band concert or whatever. You're focused in on school. When you're home, you stay focused on your family. So you have to be present. You have to really think about that. So you're bringing your passion to whatever one of those things are. To me, it gets back to finding the secret sauce. To me is find something you're interested in that you're good at. But here's the piece that gets missed a lot of times. What can you get paid to do? Right? Because otherwise that's called a hobby.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm passionate about golf. That's my passion right now at this stage of my life. And I think that when it's all said and done, I can't find anybody to pay me to play right now. So as much as we all want our job, our vocation, and our passions, our interests, our avocations to align, and that's the ultimate goal. We'd love to get paid for something we love to do, right? But that doesn't always happen, at least not right away. Again, it's a journey. It's a process. Don't think about it. I'd rather you do something that can provide a means to an end, that allows you to pursue those things that you enjoy doing. The goal to me is to live a meaningful, joyful, purposeful, passionate life. And that doesn't have to happen by accident. You can control what you can control. And you have to have a career and a life plan. Plans are going to change. Right? I always loved the old boxer, Mike Tyson, used to say, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
But they're misinterpreting what he's trying to say is, yes, you have to have a plan. But once you get thrown a couple of, jabs, a curveball comes at you, all right, you adjust, but you're ready for it because you've developed those skills, those competencies, and confidence.
Yeah.
right? That you have to believe in yourself. And how do you believe in yourself? Because you've gone out, you've educated yourself, you've tried certain things. You learn that failure is a temporary setback. Okay.
Yeah.
I learned it when I was coaching and teaching at a military school, prep school, high school out near Notre Dame. Young kid in the unit, Rick Rosemark, one time said to me when I thought, wow, I don't know if we're going to be able to accomplish our goals as a unit. He looked at me, he said, Coach Battista, wetsuit. I was like, wetsuit? What's that mean? He said, we eat that stuff up. We're gonna be fine, right? And I'm thinking, what a great attitude. And some other thing, little nuggets. When you wake up in the morning, I hope you look in the mirror and go, it's me and you against the world. When do we attack? You're not looking in the mirror going, hey, can't wait to be average today. we want to make every day count. And you can't do it all alone, Beth. You know that. Yeah. That's where mentors, peers that can help you, and coaches if you feel you need them. So.
Yeah, no, so many good points, and I think especially now, even just talk about trying to do things alone, we actually feel very alone. We feel very isolated. I mean, we actually are isolated or isolating with our families. What do you suggest too when someone says, okay, I know I need to do something, or maybe I need an accountability partner, but I just feel like I'm doing this by myself and I don't know how to get myself going? What do you, when people feel that they're on their own?
Well,
what do you say about that?
I really think we have to have that courage to get past that barrier. All right. You come up against a hurdle or a brick wall, right? Everybody wants to go through it, right? Sometimes you got to take a step back and go, I just go around it. Right. I just got to find a different way to come up with a solution. And I would just encourage as many students out there, whether you're high school or college or you're a returning adult learner, that, take a chance. Just put yourself out there. It's okay. If things don't work out, you're going to learn, right? Yeah. There's no such thing as a failure.
Yeah.
You either do it or you learn from it.
Yeah.
Right. And then you make adjustments. And I would say that you've got to find somebody. For kids, it's hard sometimes to ask a parent. Dad, mom can say something and goes in one ear out the other. Sometimes you got to go to a coach. Sometimes you got to go to a teacher, a professor, a colleague, a friend, a friend's parent that happens to be in the field, and just reach out to them and say, I really would like you to help hold me accountable. In my book, the first two things I say: one, you have to have an accountability partner to get the most out of the book. Somebody keep you on track to get it done. Because in my book, you're doing exercises as you're going along. Okay. And you're answering questions, hard questions, deep questions, the ones where you can't be listening or, distracted and multitask. You got to be focused.
Yeah.
You got to really think about what you want. And the second thing is you have to learn to do what I call a digital detox. Okay. Look, technology's here. We're using it. Thank goodness we have it. But every one of us needs to unplug at some point, right? We need to be away from our screens. And so when you're going to do this deep thinking, I think you need to get rid of any of the distractions. You just go back to the old-fashioned piece of paper and a pen and write down the things that matter the most to you. What is it that you want out of life? What are your core values? If you had the perfect opportunity to do anything you want, what is it? Okay. You have to think about these things and you have to write down, well, how am I going to achieve those things? There is a process. There is a journey that you can go on that will help you reach and make your dreams come true.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really, really good point. So you have experienced a lot in your life through sports in particular. So can you tell us about a time when you had your biggest failure and what did you learn from it?
Well, like a lot of things in life, we get promoted up the ladder, and at some point you reach a level of incompetence, where I became an administrator, and quite frankly, I was terrible at it. That's not my skill set. I am a people person. I need to be out coaching and teaching and managing and making me responsible for anything from an administrative standpoint. I'm glad I did it. I learned a lot from it, but I also realized that it just wasn't me. It wasn't in my DNA. I didn't enjoy it, and I wasn't very good at it, quite frankly. And so I had to make a pivot.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like what's happening right now, the pivot has been forced upon a lot of people.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I talked to a person last week. They've got this idea, this plan. You talk to them the very next week, say, "Hey, my job just got eliminated." All of a sudden, it's okay. Take a deep breath, relax. Let's go take a look at what changes do we need to make. What is the plan we need to come up with? And no panic. Be poised, relaxed but energized. And so that's what I think the biggest thing for me. A couple different times in my career, I ran up against places where I wasn't a good fit. Okay, yeah. And I think that's self-awareness. Right? That's you have to keep it real. Right. Yeah. And say, as much as I would have loved to have been, this in my career, I got close and realized, well, that's not attainable. No big deal. Okay, I tried it. It didn't work out the way I wanted. I learned a lot in the process about myself and other things. I'm going to make a change. And I'm happier now because I'm doing what I love to do.
Right.
And I want to genuinely help other people to kind of design a life that's going to be a good career, that's going to put food on the table and allow them to live the quality of life they want to pursue at the stage of life they're in.
Right.
And how do you get there? How do you get there? And I think too often we let that up to happenstance when we have a lot more control over some of these things than people think.
Yeah, it's such an interesting, first of all, thanks for sharing that, because so many people have those experiences, and I have so many young people or grads, or even they get their first job and they realize, wow, I really don't like that. Or they just get fired because they weren't the fit. And I always say to them, I'm like, I know it doesn't feel so great right now, but you're going to look back on this and be really thankful for this experience. And it's going to actually make you better, stronger, and you'll have more clarity about what you are good at and where you should focus, because knowing what you don't want is as important, if not more important, than knowing.
Well, I'm glad you said that. That's, Beth, people don't understand that.
Yeah, you have to know what you don't want and what you're not good at, and that gives you better focus and direction.
I think, on the sheet that I take students through, one of the things I was, what are you interested in? But just as well, what are you definitely not interested in? And I think that matters. It's like when you go to the doctor, you don't just walk into the office and they look at you and go, "Oh, you've got this and you're going to take this pill and it's going to clear it up." That's not the way they ask you questions.
Yeah.
You test assessments, right? And I'm a big proponent of getting professional assessments done. These free ones that are out there, a lot of times they do more harm than they do good. Mm-hmm. I think you need to do some of these assessments to find out more about yourself. But then you need a professional. You need a coach in a lot of cases that can interpret the data for you, ask you questions, and then help you to figure out a better course. Should I take a gap year? Should I start off at community college?
Right.
If it's your first job, do you take a promotion just because it paid more money? Maybe it moves you into a big city where it's a lot more expensive to live, and you didn't factor that in.
Yeah.
Think about all these things. And I think that's where a professional can help you and worth whatever time and money you spend on it.
Yeah, you just touched on, all of those things are on the table right now. You have incoming freshmen deciding, should I go? Or anyone in college saying, should I take a gap year or semester off? You have, all these other grads saying, should I just take the first job that gets offered to me, even though it has nothing to do with what I studied? Should I be, more desperate and just take anything? So, my typical guidance is, like you say, keep it real. I don't think taking the first thing that comes your way, if it's not aligned with your skill set, you're going to either quit or they're going to fire you. Right. So, or take something that maybe pushes you, that you're acquiring something new, but pushes you on the path, versus something completely opposite, unless that's the direction you want to head in. But just being desperate and jumping at the very first thing is not always the best move, even though there's a need. Obviously, people need to make money. I mean, we got to balance all of that. But maybe we got to kind of figure that out.
I think it comes back to, for each individual, it's a little different. For the single parent that just got downsized, it's hard to pass up. I mean, they got to put food on the table, right?
Right.
I encourage anybody that's been in this situation, first of all, max out what you can. If you can get unemployment, if you can get the payroll protection plan, all those things, do what you got to do. But you got to start looking, because the keep it real part is also about, all right, well, this is a temporary fix, right? I might need to do this right now just to get me through so I can pay off my student loans. I can, whatever. So it varies, Beth. I think now in a perfect world, I'm with you 100% that, don't just take the first thing that comes along, but you do at some point. We're going to all have to make a decision, get it done. And you may make the wrong decision. It's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Don't, you just, again, say, okay, I did that. I left what everybody thought was my perfect job, working for the Pittsburgh Penguins, my hometown team. I'm in the NHL, and I left to go become a graduate assistant at a college program, and it didn't work out. It was a bad experience for me. But I got to tell you, the lessons that I learned from that year stayed with me. And the next job that I got was at the polar opposite end, and was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. And it really led me to my job, my dream job of coaching at Penn State, my alma mater, and having this joyful, existence. As my wife liked to say, she got up and went to work. I leaped out of bed and went to play. Because I was doing what I was passionate for, what I loved, what I was interested in. And I brought my passion with me every day to that job. I can't say the same thing to some jobs I had later on in my career. And now I'm back to doing stuff that I really love to do. I'm still trying that getting paid. But this is why it's important. What's your stage of life? When you're young and you're not married, you're not responsible for anybody else, you don't have any kids, and maybe you don't have a lot of student debt, you can afford to take some chances.
Oh, absolutely.
That, absolutely. Your stage of life, the quality of life you desire, what kind of debt you've got, all that plays into this, which is why, it's like, oh, it seems so overwhelming, all these different things. How to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You sit down, take that deep breath, visualize what it is you want to get to, and get to work trying to figure out, all right, what are those things that are deal breakers to me? And you've got to think, and I'm at this point, I say, well, why didn't you take that job in Minnesota? Well, I just don't want to be that far away from home. Well, given this time, you may have to do it, right? You may have to say, okay, I'm going to have to suck it up. Put my big person pants on, and I'm going to have to go give it a try. And you never know what opportunities may come from that.
Yeah.
And so you have to be flexible, got to be adaptable, but you got to know what your purpose is.
Yeah.
You have to know what your values are, because that's going to help keep you aligned and help you to make those decisions a lot easier, because you know who you are, what you stand for, and what you're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm going to have a couple more questions, and then we'll see where we are. So when you think about I know you're very well read, and I love all the quotes. I love the eating the elephant one bite at a time. But what are some people that you're either following or that you feel are very influential to you that you really look to, whether it's something that you're reading, listening to, or somebody that this is someone that you've gotten a lot of inspiration from? So just kind of maybe share with the people who are watching.
Sure. First of all, I get a couple things emailed to me right off the bat in the morning. Seth Godin, I subscribe to his newsletter. He is a marketing whiz. I love his philosophy on so many things. So I get his email, and I try to watch his YouTube stuff. Patrick Lencioni is another one. He wrote, he's got several best-selling books. I'm a big fan of his. I also, in my particular field, I'm listening to Grant Baldwin of the Speaker Lab, because he's giving me very specific, things. I also try to listen to a few other, John Maxwell, Brian Tracy, Jeffrey Hazlett from the C-Suite Network, Marty Wolf from the Business Builder Show. These are all people that I'm trying. Dr. Dawn Graham, who's a friend of ours, right?
Yep.
I love listening to her show, and I loved her book, Switchers.
Yeah.
Which is appropriate for people that are, try in that kind of midlife crisis or thinking of changing jobs.
Yeah.
Well, and I can tell you that it's like, wow, where do you find a time? You know what? Sometimes I'm listening when I take dog for a walk. Instead of just, listen to some music or something, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start Marty Wolf's, podcast from the Business Builder Show, and I'm going to listen to this episode, and then I can decide whether I want to keep doing that or not. But yeah, there's a bunch of people that have been so influential in my life. And I start every day off. I have a coach's Bible. I read my devotional, try to get me started up. I listen to the music. The song that pops up right off the bat when I wake up is Feeling Stronger Every Day. Okay. I've got my goals written out, taped to my mirror in my bathroom, so I see them. I know what they are, can't hide from them. And I think it's important that we try to learn as much as we can when we can. But you do have to take a step back every now and then and unplug and just relax. Yeah. And that's why it's important. I go on a walk with a good friend of mine. We just take a 3-mile walk every other day, and it's just kind of go and we're practicing. I don't like to call it social distancing. I call it proximity distancing.
There you go.
Social distancing. We need to be more social now than ever.
I know.
Bad term there. I wish they would call it physical distancing or proximity or safe distancing. Let's call it safe distancing.
Yes. No, those are great tips. That's so inspirational. And the fact that I just love the fact that you walk the talk, that you set yourself goals. And I think these are such good tips for anybody of any generation, of any age. This has just been, I think, so valuable to so many people, to our watchers. And I know to everyone of any stage of their life. If people want to learn more about what you do or how you do it, share with them how the best way to connect with you and what they can access your resources.
Sure. Go to pragmaticpassion.com. That's my website that you can find out about what I do and my philosophy and the 7 principles that I espouse to try to help you live a more joyful, meaningful, purposeful life. That's what I'm all about, is trying to help you do that. And if you want to email me, it's just joe@pragmaticpassion.com. And if you send me an email, I'll send you back my job qualities checklist and a couple of articles that I've written on resilience and what do you do next when your job's been rescinded or your internship's been rescinded. I can send that back to anybody that'll email me at joe@pragmaticpassion.com.
Fantastic. It's such a phenomenal resource. And I'll just say personally, Joe has been actually an incredible mentor to my own son, who's at Penn State, and we met through Dr. Dawn of Sirius Radio. And that's another great story of how networking led from one thing. You and I just connected. And then I thought, wow, this could be someone my son could maybe talk to. And then through some of your connections that he was able to help connect him to an internship. So, encourage everyone watching that. Connect with the people around you. You never know what happens. And if you want to learn more about how we support college students and grads to land the job that you deserve, please go to nextgreatstep.com. And if you're interested, we have this skills accelerator method that is launching next week. And if you want to get on the list to get early access, just put a comment in there saying early access, and I will make sure to PM you and get you the information. But Joe, as always, we could go on and on. It is a pleasure to have you with us. And thank you so much for your guidance, your motivation, inspiration. I always feel better after we speak.
Likewise, I appreciate it. We're kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Everything's going to work out. I love what your son's doing, by the way. It's a great example. His internship was rescinded, and he didn't wallow in self-pity. He said, you know what? I'm going to do this project. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to show some leadership and self-motivation. And I love what he's doing. He's figuring out a way to make it work. And that's going to come back to him in big time, because I think he's living, what he's saying he's going to do.
I appreciate your comments. I know he does too. So thank you. Yeah, we're excited for him, and it's hard. Everything. Let's be honest. Nothing's easy.
Right.
It's a challenge, but one day at a time, and we're trying to all find our way to kind of push our way through this.
Absolutely.
All right. Pleasure talking to you. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Hold on. I'm ending.